ahead.
So Saul needs no introduction for the people that are on here. As you know, he is president of the congregation. He was a contestant in the great Temple Bake Off. As he lives 2 blocks from me, we often have dinner together, and I will tell you that he is as good of a cook as he is president. So we're going to mute everybody.
Praise or not.
We're going to mute everybody, but if you have a question, just unmute yourself. There's a small enough group of us today that you can just unmute yourself and ask all the questions.
Yeah. So I cheated a little bit. We're going to start by slicing our mushrooms. I'm going to move this so you can see the cutting board. I have a few mixtures here. If you're using shiitakes, make sure you cut off the bottom, the stem of it. Those aren't very tasty. They're very woody. So we're just going to do that really quickly. And we're not going to do anything with them just yet. We're just going to slice them up and toss them into a bowl. We'll get to those in a little bit as we once we get our sofrito going, and right before we put in our rice. So like I said, just take them, move them out of your way, have a bowl ready. Just stick them in the bowl, get them out of your way. And if I'm moving too fast, just tell me. And now we're gonna just prep our sofrito. We're gonna just get our onions and garlic and celery going here. So I like to slice my onion first. I actually just sharpened my knives the other day, not even thinking about it. Okay, onions are nice and chopped. You want them sort of in a smaller dice, not a mince. I don't think you need to mince them. You're going to get the living crap cooked out of them anyway. So, and we're going to do our onions next, and then we're going to once we get our celery next, and once we get our celery going here, we can start heating up our 4-quart pot so that we can get the sofrito moving. Several years ago, I took a class on knife skills, so.
How much celery, Saul?
2 stalks. Yeah, the onion, it says medium onion. I think of medium onions as like 5 to 7 ounces. Or in that range. I used the red onion because I ran out of white onions. but it doesn't matter. Just don't use a shallot because they tend to burn really quickly when you're doing stuff like this. They don't really handle the heat well, unless you're just using a little bit of shallots just to sort of flavor. But this has a lot of onion, so you don't want to use that much shallot. And I'm just mixing my onions and celery together. I'm not even worrying. They cook at about the same rate. Okay, those are done. Oh, that one stuck to my knife. Nice. Awesome, those are done. And I go over my my stove is over on the corner, so I'm just going to go over and start heating up the pot a little bit. Put it on a sort of medium-ish heat. And while it's warming up, I'm going to be using olive oil rather than butter. You can use butter, olive oil, a mixture of the two, whatever floats your boat. But I'm going to be using olive oil in a minute. While I'm waiting for it to heat up, I'm just going to smash my garlic. That's looking pretty good from my perspective. So I don't know if you can see how the garlic's nicely chopped, nice and fine. And keep it separate from the other two until they get into the pot. Then they can commingle. So let's move some stuff around here. I'm going to go ahead and put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in. And get this sucker going. Here it's starting to sizzle a little bit. And in you go. So I'm just gonna let that sit in there for a little bit, let it sizzle, keep an eye on it so it doesn't burn. And slide some things down here. And while that's happening, I'm gonna heat up my nonstick pan. I have a ceramic pan on the inside. You're not gonna put any oil in this. You're gonna let the water from the mushrooms just come right out. And we want to get a little bit of a char, a little bit of a browning on them. These guys are going to take about 4 or 5 minutes just to get a little soft. Give this a couple minutes just to get a little. Mix them up. You want a bowl to put your mushrooms in. You're not going to be able to do these at one time. You're going to have to do probably 2, maybe 3 batches, depending on how big your pan is. I have a 10-inch pan, so I'll probably end up doing 3 batches of this. And then
I lost you, so what are we doing?
so I'm heating up my saute pan. So I have my onions and celery are in the 4-quart pot, and I'm heating up my nonstick pan so I can start browning the mushrooms.
Okay.
And I have my mushrooms right here in a bowl, and I have another bowl right here for my mushrooms as they come out. And I have a lid to try and keep them kind of warm. I did heat up this bowl a little bit so it's not icy cold. I seem to be missing my dog. Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to go find my dog. I don't trust her. Rudy. Where are you? Rudy. Rudy. Ruby. Sorry, my dog seems to have disappeared. Give me a second. I'll be right back. I apologize.
Usually she'd be right there with you.
Like a toddler, you never know where they are. All right, so we're going to start browning our mushrooms. I'm just throwing a handful in there. Just keep turning over my onions and celery, keeping them from burning. I do have the mushrooms on a pretty high heat. You can hear them starting to sizzle a little bit. Just releasing that moisture.
How long do we want to cook them? How
You want
brown?
to get them nice and wilted, and you want to see a little bit of brown showing up on the bottom of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so you want to get them nice and toasty. Yeah, as soon as your oysters are going to cook a lot faster than the others, so just make sure you have everybody mixed together and you keep stirring them a little bit. You don't want them to burn. If you have cremini and button mushrooms in there, those will be your tell. You can see I had a whole bunch of these mushrooms in there and they're already cooking down to almost nothing. Now I'm going to pull this first batch out. You can see a little bit on this one. There's a little bit of brown now happening right around the top there and a little bit on the sides. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to do my second batch. I'm doing this in 3 batches. And I'm now going to go ahead and stick my garlic in. My onions and celery are looking nice and wilty. So we're going to have 2 things going at the same time here, which is what makes this both a challenge and fun. You do this, you can end up on, like the amateur edition of Chop. All right. So we got those things going. We're good. All right, so garlic looks good. Nobody's burning yet. That's a good thing. On our second batch of mushrooms, if you have a 12-inch pan, you're probably on your last batch of mushrooms. So I have my 300 grams of risotto right here. I'm just going to go ahead and dump it in. We got our risotto going. We're going to let our risotto get mixed in with our veg, and we're going to let them get a little bit toasty and absorb that liquid that our veg has been putting in there. We're going to get ready in just a minute to strain our porcini. So we're going to just mix that up and let it sit for a minute or two. All right, so take your porcinis, and you're just gonna take them, squeeze out some of that liquid, just put it right on your chopping board. Again, squeeze. And I have a little strainer here. I'm just gonna pour it right into my measuring cup very slowly to keep the sediment behind. So I'm not gonna pour all that in there. I'm gonna leave a little bit in my bowl so that I don't have any of that sediment in there. Check out our rice. Ooh, nice and good. Hasn't stuck to the bottom yet. That's a good sign. You should have it at a nice medium-ish heat. All right, most of that liquid is gone. So now I'm going to take my Sauvignon Blanc that I have here. Any white wine will work nicely. And I'm going to put in a half a cup. It's a half cup ladle. Makes life easy. I'm almost ready for my last batch of mushrooms. These are looking good. Got your white wine in there. Nice, stir it up. And what we're going to do is actually just leave it for a minute so we can cook off some of that alcohol. We're not interested in the alcohol. We're interested in the acidity from the white wine. Adds a nice little tang to it. But if you're not into having booze in your food, I'm sorry. You can just use some water or some broth. Just that extra half a cup. So we're going to put that in there. You want to wait until most of it gets absorbed. Sort of like the Borg, right? Resistance is futile. You shall be absorbed. All right, that's looking really nice. Stick you in here. Do my last couple of mushrooms here. Check out how we're doing. Doing good. So I'm going to wait until almost all that mixture, all that liquid is gone from the white wine before I add my next thing. So I want as much of that alcohol to be cooked off as possible. Most of it should be gone at this point. Gonna add about a half a cup of my porcini liquid next. Got a nice flavor. Don't want to waste that. That would be a bad thing to do. About a half a cup. I'm gonna put the rest of it in my broth. Never a bad thing. And again, just mix it up nice and good. While that's doing that, come back here to my mushrooms. In a minute, I'm going to zest my lemon, and then I'm going to juice my lemon as well. My mushrooms are just about done. So we're going to zest our lemon, reserve that, because we're going to use that in our risotto. Adds a nice super lemony flavor to it. And then we use the lemon juice to marinate our olives with some olive oil in just a minute. So if you have a zester, it's the way to go. So I have my little microplane here. You just want that top layer of your lemon. You don't want to get you don't want to get into the pit. That's just bitterness. Looking good. There's my lemon. The lemon juicer right here. Ooh, those look nice. That. All right, we're gonna get a little steam action here. I'm just gonna quickly deglaze my pan. It's gonna get noisy. It makes it easy to clean up later. All right, so our risotto's doing well. Most of that original broth that you just put in from your mushroom should be about gone. I know mine is. And now comes the fun part of just adding a half a cup at a time, mixing it good, stirring it up, in the words of Bob Marley. And what you don't want to do is when you put your broth in, don't leave the sprigs of rosemary behind. I know they don't like to hear that, but it's for the better. They'll have lost any flavor at that point. And they're just going to have too much of a woody texture to them. And we're going to add probably about 2 cups of liquid before we add in our mushrooms. All right, so let me get back to my mushrooms. This time I am going to measure. So we want 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And we're just going to juice these suckers. And I'm just going to go ahead and put all of that lemon juice in. A little bit of pepper. A little bit of salt. And mix it up good. Looks yum-delicious. All right, we still have our porcinis here. So now what you want to do, stir your risotto so it doesn't stick to the bottom of your pan. I'm still good here. I got enough liquid. If you find yourself running a little bit dry, go ahead and toss in that next half a cup. All right, we're going to try and keep count as we do this. So I'm going to take about half of my mushrooms, leaving that liquid behind. Add it to my porcinis on my cutting board. I'll move the camera back over in a second. I'll put a lid on it, literally. right, that's looking good. Let's add another cup of liquid. So I'm up to 1 whole cup of my brodo, my broth. Want to get to about 2 cups, maybe 2.5 cups in there, and then I'm gonna put my mushrooms in. So let's go back to our mushrooms while this is doing this. It's risotto thing. So I have about half of my mushrooms here. I have my lemon zest here. I have my parsley sitting on my board because I'm going to cut that up next. And all you want to do is just nicely chop this up. My porcinis are right here, and we're just chopping up this whole thing. Doesn't have to look pretty. It's going to be going into our risotto, so you want to make sure it's nice and chopped up fine. Particularly those porcinis. You don't want to bite into a big chunk of porcini. They have great flavor, but that's not fun to chew on. It feels pretty good to me. So I'm good there. I'm going to make some space over here. I'm going to mix up stir my risotto again in just a second. Okay, it's doing nicely. We stir it to release all that starch. That's how we get it nice and creamy. Right? We make regular rice. It's like 1 3/4 to a cup of rice, but this is like almost 5 cups of liquid, 5 to 5.5 cups of liquid with 1.5 cups of rice, or 300 grams of rice, or however you measure it out. So this is my 3rd half cup. That's doing nicely. All right, so while we're waiting for our risotto to do a little bit of whatever it's doing, this is part of our garni. I left most of my stems in here. I just took out the really huge stems that are like biting into a twig. I'm gonna shred this up nice and fine. You're going to this is going to go on with our sliced mushrooms. You don't want to mix it in though right now because it'll make the parsley too wet. It'll just become soggy, and that's not pleasant. All right, that's like the hardest part. Let's come back over here. So I don't know. There you go. That's what I got going on in here right now. That's my risotto. It's once we get the mushrooms in, I'll have room on my cutting board again, and I can go ahead and start grating my Parmesan. Now, I haven't put any salt yet into my risotto, mostly because the broth I make already has salt in it. So I'll wait until it's a little bit further done, and we're putting in a cup of Parmesan, which also has salt in it. So I'll adjust my seasoning at the end. You should start to see your risotto starting to get a little bit creamy at this point. That's good. That's what we're looking for. I'm also one of those people that clean as you go, but I'm being nice. I'm not doing my dishes right now. Oh, this is looking nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and put in I think I'm up to number 5, my 5th half cup. And then I'm going to put in my mushrooms after it started to disappear a little bit. The mushrooms will have a lot of moisture still in them, so I don't want to add them both at the same time. Go. It's number 5. Okay, give that a minute or 2, and then I'm going to go ahead and toss my mushrooms in. Now I have in the recipe that you throw your lemon in at the end, and I do that mostly because the zest will start to lose a little bit of its flavor if you put it in too soon. You don't have to wait till the very end. You could do it like near the end. I find though if you put it in it too early, then it sort of loses its punch. All the oils from the zest just get overwhelmed, and they cry and they go into a corner and you never see them again. It's looking nice. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put my mushrooms in, unceremoniously dumping them in. All right, so there they are, right there. We're just gonna go ahead and mix them right in. I always go out from the outside and swirl in, so less food comes flying out of my pot. It's not very good. Just some make over here right now, and it's all over the place. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer between half cups at this point, only because there's all that moisture from the mushrooms, and I want a little bit of that to disappear before I put in more. We don't want to steam the rice. That's not our goal. I love the smell of this. All right, we got paper towel. Just going to clean off my cutting board just a little bit for from that. I'm in no rush to get the Parmesan grated, but I figure I could do a little bit between liquid dunks. I have my big chunk of Parmesan here. Okay, I can start to feel that sticking a little bit to the bottom, so I waited just a tad too long. Let's help it out. And there you go. That's all. It's number 6. We'll probably start testing the risotto when we get to cup number 8 or half cup number 8. That would be about 4 cups of broth plus the half a cup of the mushroom liquid plus a half a cup of the white wine. So that would be about 5 cups of liquid. So it should start to feel a little bit done. And then you can decide how denty you want it. You good so far? I feel like I'm talking to my students who don't turn on their cameras and then don't say anything during the entire process.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Okay, just making sure. Haven't lost anybody yet. All right. While you're doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and measure out. I have my 1 cup measure here for my okay, not quite there. I'm gonna do a little more. And we'll put the salad takes like no time to put together. It's really simple, but it's really nice and fresh and has a nice balance with the sweetness from the raisins and actually the mandarin oranges. The with the sort of amazing umami flavoring of the rice. It's a nice balance between those two things. And it's one less thing to cook. In a minute, I'm going to actually get started on this salad because I need to toast my pine nuts. I didn't buy pre-toasted pine nuts. So if you have pre-toasted pine nuts, you can cheat and skip this step. But if you don't want to use raw pine nuts. They don't have the right texture for the salad. You want something with a little bit of crunch and brings out the nuttiness. All right, you're doing good. I'm gonna start testing my risotto in a minute or two. All right, so I got another nonstick pan. Turn you up, and turn you on. All right, so I have about 2.5 tablespoons of, this is 2 to 3 tablespoons of pine nuts. So it depends on what you got. I'll wait for my pan to get a little hotter. I can sort of feel you can see the pine nuts are right there. My little pan. Again, a non-stick pan. You don't want to use one with Teflon coating. I know whomever they are, say that it's not good to cook with Teflon without any kind of fat in it. I don't know why. I teach history. I'm going to try and dry out my rice a little bit. It's a little bit wet, so I'm just going to let it dry out a little bit before I start testing that rice. I'm gonna add another half a cup. My rice is still a little crunchier than I want it to be. So we're getting close to that point. And my pine nuts are starting to look nice, and you can see a little bit. I don't know if you can see a little bit of brown on top of that. That's what I'm looking for. I don't want it to get too much, just enough. Toast it up. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put them back in that little ramekin that I had them in before. Let them cool down. And then we'll so you can see them here, really nice and brown on top, not burnt, a little bit pale on one side. They'll have a really nice flavor to them when you put them in the salad. We want them to cool down. We don't want them to hit our greens. They'll just wilt them in that spot. So that wouldn't be very pleasant. This is looking really nice. So you just want to dry it out just a bit more. I just want to dry mine out just a wee bit more. So I'm just gonna let it. Mm. My rice is good, so I'm going to take my cup of Parmesan. Once again, unceremoniously dump it right in there. I'm going to blend it in. I haven't put any pepper in yet, so I'll probably do that right now while that's doing that. And then I'm going to put a lid on it for a couple of minutes and just let it sit and warm up just a tad. All right, so while that's doing that for a couple of minutes, we're going to move back over here. And I have all my salad stuff over here. And my mushrooms are kind of warmish. Move them out of my way. And I'm going to juice another lemon. I'm not zesting it this time. I'm just juicing it. Feels like a waste, but don't need it. And we want, it's a simple 2-to-1 ratio of oil to acid. So I have my bowl right here. I'm just going to go ahead and juice another lemon. I'm actually going to cheat. I'm going to actually probably use 2 tablespoons of lemon just because it's easier. Here's my 1. And here's my 2. So rather than 3 tablespoons of olive oil, I'm going to end up using 3 tablespoons. I'll use 4 tablespoons or a 1/4 cup. Hey, Kel. That's my little bowl. I'm going to put a little bit of pepper in. Use white pepper. I'm using just black pepper. A little bit of seasoning, a little salt. So you could use a 1/4 cup. I'm not going to use a 1/4 cup though. I'm just going to use my tablespoon because I want to be able to, I'm going to switch hands. I'm actually going to use I'm a righty, but I'm using my left hand to hold. Just dropping in a couple of drops at a time so I can just start emulsifying it. I'm not using any other binder. There's no mustard. There's no anything in here. It's really nice and simple. One, here's number 2. Number 3. And I'm actually just going to dress my salad individually rather than putting it into a big bowl. It'll look pretty that way. And my last tablespoon, number 4. Again, it's a simple 2-to-1 ratio of fat to acid. Here comes the big cheat. We got our raisins. You want a couple tablespoons of raisins. I'm just going to put them on my cutting board over here right now. And mandarin oranges. And I have my little bowl. I'm just going to take some of my greens that I have. I was telling folks that came in a little earlier, just pick these from our front garden bed. So it's kind of nice at the end of summer. I'm going to add a little bit of my greens. I'm going to dress them a little bit. I want to douse them. All right, I'll start plating up. Lemon zest. forget something. So you can see that letting it sit for a little bit allows it to get a little creamier. That's nice. And all right, so now we're going to go back to don't forget our mushrooms from before, right? So let's take a little bit of the mushrooms. They should be still a little bit warm. I'm going to put them right on top. It's really pretty that way. And then some of our parsley. Take my salad. Salad greens right here. My raisins on. My pine nuts.
All right, my kitchen is officially dirtier than I've ever left it.
Real? Yeah, mine too. I normally cook and clean as I go along.
But the risotto was messy.
Yeah, and there you have it. Risotto with a little salad.
Beautiful.
All right.
Looks delicious.
I have to say it came out pretty. I can't wait to eat it.
I hope yours came out as pretty.
Well, would you like to see?
Yes, I would like to see.
All right, you're probably pinned, but can you see the platter?
Oh, yeah. Nice.
So
Nice.
it
All right.
looks,
So now it's time to make dessert. All right, I have my whole operation over here. This is like the most deadly recipe ever.
why I'm not making it. I'm just watching it.
Really, you're not making it. It's like awesome. It's like how can it go wrong? You have chocolate cake in like 2 minutes.
That's the problem. I don't want to know how to make chocolate cake in 2 minutes.
You do. Everybody does. Let me get my measuring spoon. So the nice thing about this is like everything is done with a tablespoon. It's like the best thing ever. Although my other tablespoon's at the bottom of the sink, so I'm gonna have to stop in the middle. All right, so we have our egg. 1 egg. Oh, and we're using a coffee cup. I like this coffee cup. It's nice and big. But you can use pretty much any normal size coffee cup. And we need milk. And we're gonna do 3 tablespoons of milk.
Yeah, could you keep saying the amount because I don't have the recipe.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, so 1 egg, 3 tablespoons of milk. Three tablespoons of a neutral oil. I'm using sunflower. You use canola. I wouldn't use corn. Corn has too much flavor to it. I got 3 tablespoons of neutral oil. I have to go rinse that off in a second. All right, and you want to, where's my little whisk? And you want to go ahead and whisk it all together. If I could find my little whisk, I would whisk it all together. I might have to get a fork. Mix it up nice and good. Okay, so there you go, nice and mixed. Let me go get my. All right, next thing we're going to do 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Which is good because I don't have much flour left. We'll get more. Two, and my third. And then you're going to do 4 tablespoons, 4 tablespoons or a quarter cup, whichever you prefer, of sugar. I'm not mixing anything at the moment. I'm just sticking it all in. Two, 3, and that's my 4. And then I'm going to take 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder.
Does it matter what kind of cocoa powder you use?
I'm just using regular old Hershey's 100% cacao.
Okay.
Now, some people say you should use Dutch, but it's what I got. I've used all sorts, and I'll be honest, I don't taste the difference. So I know people say that you should use like Drost is like the best. I'm like, that's nice. It is good, but anyway, so you want to mix this up nice and well. As soon as you start to see it starting to come together, you can see mine starting to come together a little bit. You don't want any dry pockets in there at all. I'm going to take a splash of vanilla. It's really scientific. A little splash of my vanilla, and I say a really big pinch of salt. Otherwise, it comes out really bland. There's nothing worse, like you're going through this effort, your chocolate cake should taste really awesome. Just want to make sure I have no white bits in there and everybody's nice and mixed up. Good. All right, so last thing I need, 3 tablespoons of chocolate chips. I like using the mini chips. I find that if I use the big chips, they all sink to, well, what ends up being the top, but when you use the littler chips, they seem to stay suspended throughout. So 3 of those, 2. And 3. One got away. I'll have to eat it. Okay, just a quick mix. You have nice creamy chocolate batter. Tastes good. And I'm just going to walk it over to the microwave. And set your timer for 2 minutes and hit go. Really like the greatest thing ever, I'm telling you. Like you want dessert, you don't want to like make a whole cake. This is awesome. Doesn't get better unless you make a whole cake. Put this away.
So you're frozen.
Sorry. Am I still frozen?
Nope.
Okay. It's weird because the router is right over there. I don't know why. It's crappy FiOS. I'm gonna blame it on Verizon. Corporate America, keeping us down.
Well, while we're waiting for this last 2 minutes, I'd like to thank, this is the last one of this session. Drew and Jan had to cancel for next week, so we will reschedule them later. And we'll see if we schedule another one. If anyone knows anybody who wants to do it, let me know. And if everyone could give a big round of applause to Saul.
Don't thank me yet. We got 30 seconds. I'm gonna go get a little plate. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you enjoy the risotto. And the
How
little
pretty
salad.
my salad turned out.
Nice.
Excellent.
So here's what it looks like inside the mug. You can see it's steaming, right? We're gonna let it set for just a minute. Actually, we're not going to. We're just gonna go ahead.
Take a little peek.
And there you have it.
Did you
Ooh.
grease that when I wasn't paying attention?
I didn't grease anything.
Okay. And it comes out that way? That's cool.
Comes out. There you go. Chocolate cake.
Very nice.
Looks yummy. I have to tell you, the risotto is delicious.
Oh, good.
The salad is delicious.
Ditto.
Excellent. It's a keeper.
It's a keeper. It's a good one. I know it's a little bit of effort, but think it this way. We started at 6:30 and it's 7:45 and you have dessert and the main course and the side.
There you go.
Hour and 15. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Bon
Thank you
appetito.
for coming. I'm going to eat.
Me too.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.
Bye.